You want to intro us and everything, Jonathan?
Oh, I thought it was your show. Hi, this is Jonathan Fletcher. We're the Kentuckiana FileMaker Developers Group. We've got a bunch of people here today. We're talking about email today, and Ron is our coordinator, and I am just the presenter today. So Ron is the genius behind the curtain. And then we're going to bring Tony White in a little bit later. But let me start by you got me set up. Oh, okay. You need to enable participant screen sharing, Ron.
Yep, working on it. Here we go. All participants. Let's see, did that do it?
There we go. Okay. So let me. Hang on, sorry, I'm on the wrong space. Let's go over there. Okay, we are ready. And I'm going to start off with the presentation, a little bit of the, the 40,000 foot view of emailing in FileMaker. And there's basically three ways, and with the addition of Tony's technique, you could make a case for there's four ways, but three basic ways that are provided by Claris, that are native Claris, native and quasi-native Claris provided solutions for emailing. There is the email client, which is part of the send mail script step. Then you can send through an SMTP server. We'll talk about what that is here in a second. That's also part of the send mail script step. And then there's insert from URL, which opens up a lot of possibilities that are more complicated, but a lot more powerful. So we're going to talk first about the script step. So everybody's familiar with the send mail. Well, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people are familiar with the send mail script step in FileMaker. It allows you to gives you a couple of options for getting email out of your solution. The first one is the email client. So you've got a pop-up at the top where you can say email client or SMTP. So the options for email client are basically just the addresses, subject line, message, and you can put an attachment in if you want. And then it uses the email client on your computer. This is a good thing because it's easy. This is a bad thing because not all email clients cooperate with this script step. So some people have issues with Outlook. It doesn't work with Gmail at all. And so there's a lot of pros and cons with the email client approach. But the big pro is it's really easy. Okay, yeah, easy and doesn't work with all email clients. Okay, the SMTP server option, when you choose that, you end up with a whole nother dialog for entering all your SMTP information. Now, SMTP is Simple Mail Transport Protocol. It's sending mail. And so, like when you set up your mail client in your computer, now this is really basic for most of you, but if you set up your email client, you have to put in the email and the server information. And SMTP is the type of server that you put in when you want to send mail. So your IMAP and your POP mail are receiving And SMTP is what you use. Your mail provider provides an SMTP server that you can hit, and it sometimes authenticates you with just you being on their network. Like certain ISPs just say, okay, you're on my network, so you get to send mail through my server. Others, like Apple Mail and most third-party mail providers will require you to have some sort of authentication. And so you can see you put in the server, and then down below you can specify the type of authentication, and then oftentimes it's username and password, sometimes it's other things. But basically you are saying, I belong on this network, I belong to this server, here's my authentication. That works great most of the time, because you are authenticating on that server, and so you can use it to your heart's content. The problem is that sometimes those kinds of emails get blocked, because so you might be sending too many through an email through an SMTP server, and somebody else somewhere will say, no, the stuff coming from that server tends to be spam, so we're going to block it. So that is not foolproof, but it's a good solution. It's more reliable, and the nice thing about SMTP is it works really great on server. You can't use the email client option in a server script, but you can SMTP because it's totally totally hands-off. So you can program to send email and not have to do anything else. It just goes, which is nice. But as I said, sometimes those servers get blocked. So then there is the option insert from URL. Now, this is a more complex approach to email, oftentimes called transactional email. You set up with a service and you send it. We're gonna demo this in more detail here in a minute. But you get set up with a service, and you call their API and send it commands, and send it your body information and your attachments and all that, and who you want to send it to and stuff, and they take care of sending it out. The advantage to this kind of service is that it's the most reliable, because a lot of these servers, these services, will they work really hard at staying off the spam lists. So they have techniques that they use to authenticate you, and to set up rules to prohibit spam. And so as a result, they tend to be more reliable, and you can pretty much send, although it's not 100% foolproof, it's certainly the best way if you have a lot of mail to send. Now, transactional mail is usually allowed through more than just bulk email. If you have a mailing list of 10 million people, somebody's going to try to block you. But if you're like sending out invoices and sending out communications or updates or things like this that are to specific people for specific things with unique content, it's pretty foolproof. It'll work really well. So the downside is that you're dealing with an API, and APIs tend to be more complex and have more moving parts. And if you get a good service, it's going to cost you. Oftentimes, it's not very much. It's pennies per email. But it's not free. So you have to keep an account, and you have to keep money in your account, or give them a credit card, or whatever, in order to be able to use that service. Whereas everything else I've talked about so far, the SMTP mail is free as long as you have an account with them. They will let you use their SMTP. So that's like your regular email, which you already would have anyway. So that's not an additional cost. It's also not free, but it's not an additional cost. Using transactional email through an API is an additional cost. So next is okay. So there's more moving parts to insert from your URL. So you have to have a service, and services, we're going to use SendGrid. I'm going to show you that here in a minute. But SendGrid is a good one. That it's part of, everybody's familiar with, or maybe with Twilio. They have all kinds of communication services. One of them is a transactional email server. That now they have an SMTP, but I wasn't able to get it to work, so I'm not going to demo that. But there was, I don't think I had the right kind of account to qualify for their SMTP. But they have an API that you could just send them all the information in insert from URL, and then it takes care of it. Another one that works almost identically is Mailgun. Another one is Mandrill. People are familiar with. MailChimp. I'm sorry. MailChimp has the Mandrill transactional email service. Also works with an API. I used it a long time ago. I haven't used it recently. SendGrid I picked up because the client wanted that. Now you have to send and get familiar with CURL, which is some code for communicating with a URL and sending it commands, which is the kind of basic for any API that you use. And your attachments, because everything is text, it's 7-bit, which means that you can't send binary information. So you have to convert everything to base 64, which will allow, which converts all your binary data to text. Makes a huge file. But email clients, web pages, everything can read base 64, and it treats it like it's a regular image, and it's totally transparent. The other advantage to using the insert from URL with a transactional sender is that you can send HTML much easier. The thing I forgot to mention about the other ways that you can send email from FileMaker. Now Tony's going to give a dissenting opinion on this, but so there's not a whole lot of ways that you can send HTML. Using a transactional service makes it really easy, or easier. But the regular send mail script step doesn't do HTML hardly at all. There might be some tricks that you can use, but Tony's going to talk about that. So we're going to stop the, where's the big X? Oh, it's covered up. All right, so I'm going to show you a few things, like what we talked about earlier. Was the send mail script step. Okay, so here's what it looks like. You could, now I like to create variables and just stick the variables in, and then if I need to fix them, I don't have to open up the dialog. I will fix them in the variable definition. This also is great if you want to send them as parameters. So like I'll show you here my other script that I use. I send a bunch of parameters and then have it take care of it from the parameters. So you can just feed those parameters into your send mail technique. Now down here, the path that I've defined here is just a path to a particular attachment. So like if you want to send an invoice or something like that, you would put it someplace, get the path to it, and just throw the path in here and it'll include it when it sends it. This is the SMTP version, so we've got all these settings over here. So this first one is just what you want to name the settings. Well, actually, I'm sorry, it's not right. It's not right. This would actually be my actual name. So this would be. I'm sorry, and then you would stick in the email address, the reply to. Oftentimes the email, the from address and the reply to are the same. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes you want them to be different, and so you have that option. Then there's your SMTP server and which port you're using, whether what kind of encryption you're using, and that's all based on who your SMTP provider is. So in that case, basically that's kind of easy. You just set it up the same way you would set up your email client. Now, if you're writing something for somebody else, probably what you want to do is to have a place in your solution where they can enter those values. You don't want them going in here and editing the script. So then you would use use a field that they enter their SMTP information into, and then you would just bring it into the script and include it in here. So this would be a field, but you can put a field, you can put a variable, you can put text strings in here. Obviously, the text strings get quotation marks. That's what's going on there, and then your authentication, your username and password down here. And so that's the SMTP side. On the regular email client side, oops, there. There's nothing else other than addresses, subject line, and your message line and your attachment. When you run this, it will actually pull up your email client. I mean, probably most of you have seen this. So let's. That's not going to let me call that, is it? Scripts. So, I'm just going to start here. Oh, this solution has the solution has a bunch of variables in it already. So, but you can see as you go through here, it throws all the things that I set it into variables. And then when I hit this script step, that with a send email with client, what it's going to do is it's going to, oh, it just sent it. I had the dialogue turned off. So let's fix that. I'm sorry. So you can have it use your email client without handling it. So then it's in your email program. But like I said, oftentimes that doesn't work. But so let's try this again. Say that and do a. Okay, so you see it brings up, oh, I didn't have an attachment. I didn't have a real attachment. It was a fake address. But so here it brings up my email client. It puts the stuff in the to and the CC and the BCC that information that I gave it, sticks my message in here, and then it just pulls it up. So it's as if I was sending it normally through my email client. This works. It can work. It like I said, it just doesn't work all the time. There's a few things that don't work. So so we're going to look at another script here. So that's basically the sendmail script step version of it. Now the insert from URL has a bunch of options in it, so you can put your you can put fields in, you can put variables in for various information. So the target is, in this case, the target is the field that you want to put the data in, whatever the response is for your API call. So this would be, oftentimes it's a variable that just, is just result. Okay, so, it'll create result, but anyway, I got a utility on here that if I use a variable without, it's a monkey bread plugin. If I use a variable without defining it first, it's just, we can't find it. But basically what this will do is it'll create result, stick the data in there. Now, the URL is basically the address of the API. And I've got one. I'll show you a complete one here in a minute. But I'll just walk you through these parts of it. So this is when the API says, okay, we're going to use this endpoint. So oftentimes an API will have various endpoints depending upon what you want to do. So like if you want to send mail, they'll have the send mail. If you want to check on bounces, so this is another complexity to this is you don't know right away if that email bounced. Now, it will be in the log on the server, but you have to query that in order to get that information back. So, so they have a separate endpoint that is allows you to say, okay, show me all the ones that bounced and information about them. So, so that would be a different endpoint. And again, I was going to show you what that looks like here in a minute. But I'm just walking through these. So this is an option for SSL. That's basically whatever the API documentation tells you to do. And then the CURL options here. This is where the complexity, two ways. You could learn CURL, or you can ask a friend who's done it already, which is what I did. I'm friends with Sully at Mandelbrot, and he's really helpful always when I need something. And he does a lot of Twilio stuff, so he shared his code with me, and I'll show you that. He's a genius, and I appreciate him a lot. When I need something specific dealing with Twilio, or in this case SendGrid. So anyway, so that's the overview. So I'm going to bring over this other script here. Any questions so far? I'm sorry, I'm just talking a mile a minute. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one quick question.
Sure.
With insert from URL to send an email, does it require a service? I think I was researching insert from URL to send emails at one time, and I didn't remember that there had to be a service set up, or it could actually just kind of send it straight from FileMaker. Like, I don't know if you could hit your email server directly or something like that. I don't.
That you would use the SMTP approach there.
Okay, so you'd be using
So
insert from URL, but you'd be hitting an SMTP server.
No, you wouldn't use insert from URL. You'd use sendmail and use this SMTP options, and that would hit your server.
All right, I'm just trying, like I said,
insert from URL is for when you have an API at a service that you've contracted with.
okay.
So it's like running credit cards or getting geodata or anything like that, any API, and there's a million of them out there. Email is just another, in this case, is just another API. And so some of them may be free, some services, a lot of APIs are free. There's a lot of stuff you can get off of Google for free, like the maps and things. You can, for limited use, you can use it for free. In this case, no. This is with email, you would really need and you want a good reputable server that's not going to get blocked all over the place. So I missed one authentication.
Oh, I was just going to say, I was trying to recall, I think when insert from URL first came out, there were a number of people that put out techniques for sending email using insert from URL, and I couldn't really remember how the techniques worked and where they were sending them through. So, but I did not remember anybody mentioning a service that had to be paid for. So maybe they were utilizing some free service that they were able to use. So
there might be some free services, but bear in mind that free services probably are the favorite of spammers.
Yeah.
Which means it's not going to be as reliable for you. So, a service who that's their business, they go out of their way to stay off the radar of the email servers that block spam. So, for instance, in this case, the script that I'm using here, all of the clients' .mac addresses got blocked by iCloud because they needed the server to be whitelisted. They didn't recognize the server. Because of the level of account that I had, SendGrid didn't, I was working with the free account where you get, a few a day just for the testing. And so we need to get a more robust account. But I had to contact Apple at iCloud, the iCloud server people, and ask them to whitelist this particular sending address, and then it worked fine. So, and as long as you're sending transactional stuff and you're not blanketing the world with spam, then that should be fine. But sometimes they require you to ask first. So, and that's what happened. And I'm not quite the guru that I would like to be. So I wasn't really sure that I understood why it got blocked, but they just said, hey, notify Apple, tell them to whitelist this, and you'll be fine. And it did. So here's a script that is in an actual solution that is actually running. Now, this is my massive documentation format that I use at the top. But beyond that, this just gives information to me so I can look at it, because from one week to the next, I don't remember what I was doing. So I write down a lot so I can remember what's going on next time. And you can see I got lots of comments in here because old brains need help. And also the next person who has to pick this up, it'd be nice to, I also do the documentation for whoever else might be in this in the future. But there's also the primary purpose of helping myself next week. So first I'm going to do is I'm going to save all the parameters that I've sent to the script. So this is a script that is on the server, and it runs on a schedule. It's set to run every couple minutes. And so what it does is it looks for, and not this script. This is the actual send script. But the script that calls this is a looping script that goes through all the open records that say that they still have an email sent. The sent mail timestamp field is empty. So so these are emails that are queued up by a bunch of people who are in the system coming through WebDirect, and they want to send mails for various purposes. And so when they create an email, it creates a record on the server, so it queues it up. The advantage of this is that I don't have to use any of their machine information, wherever they are, whether they're on a phone or whether they're on in a Chromebook or who knows what. It just sets up a record that the server every once in a while goes and checks, hey, do I have anything to send? And so that script then gathers the information from that record and sends it to this script. And this is the script where the action happens. So the to and the from, the subject, the content type, because this is HTML email, one of the options you specify in the data that you send to the API is what the content type is, and we have to say that it's HTML so that it knows to treat it that way. So that's content type, and also there's information in there about the base64 content as well. And I think you also have to tell it that it's a PDF. But so the content type comes in, and then there's the body information. Because of the way I do parameters, I put a carriage return after each parameter, or not a carriage return. I put a different value, and I convert it to carriage returns when it comes in here. So I'll put a pipe in or something like that in between the parameters, and then I convert that to carriage returns. But I don't want the carriage returns that are in a particular element to mess things up. So I will throw an option 6 on the Mac. I'll throw a different character in there and convert it to a carriage return after the fact. So that because all these parameters, it uses get value. So having a carriage return in there would throw off the values. So anyway, so that's neither here nor there. It's just the way I do parameters. If you're using JSON parameters, it's probably a lot easier, but you have to wrap your brain around how JSON works. Beverly's over there going, it's so easy, what's your problem? Well, my old brain sometimes struggles with it. And then there's a CC, and I stuck this in here so that MBS doesn't say, hey, you didn't define your response variable. So I don't like declaring variables. Some FileMaker developers really love it. I don't like declaring variables ahead of time, but I do this so I don't get a red line from the MBS plugin that tells me, oh, hey, you haven't defined that variable. And then one of the values that I send here is the organization ID. I don't send this. I can just pick it up anywhere because it's throughout the system, and that's just the way this particular application works. But
hey, Jonathan, before you move on,
yes,
can I ask a dumb question?
You can ask any question you want. You're not allowed to ask dumb questions, which is okay because there aren't any.
Well, first of all, thank you for explaining line 27. I was like, why is he doing that? Now I understand. Got it. And JSON, I've switched to JSON, so I like JSON for this sort of thing. My question is,
well, I'll call you up one day and you can teach me how.
I don't think so. You're smarter than I am. No, it's line 29. Sorry, line 29. The dollar response. I have found, and this is what I'm just curious about, if I do what you say in line 29 there and actually set a variable to null, that the variable actually goes away. It's like FileMaker just removes it. Am I missing
If
something?
you had something in it, you're right. You're right. But in the context of the script, and I talked with Christian about this, the guy Christian Schmidt, no Christian, I forget his last name. Anyway,
Doesn't matter.
he's the MBS guy. He said that there's no way that he could not, because you want to know when you're using a variable
That you've never
that
seen before.
that it's never seen before.
Okay.
So
it's a monkey bread thing. I mean,
yeah.
native
And so
FileMaker would have that variable go away. Monkey bread says, "Oh, I've seen that before," and it remembers it.
right, because
Great.
it's
Okay,
looking in the
that's good.
context of the script. If it hasn't seen it before in the script, it'll turn your calculation red.
Yeah.
And-
Okay. Got it. All right. Sorry to take you off track. It's just like there was a little tidbit I want to make sure I got.
No, I'm sorry. No.
Thanks for asking, because many of us wanted to know, but we're too embarrassed to ask.
Well, obviously that's not my problem.
Oh, you talking about line 29, Beverly?
Whatever Martin asked, I'm glad he did, because there were a lot of us were going like, huh? And we were just
okay.
waiting for an answer later, but no, he stopped.
Oh,
me
okay.
with it.
So yeah, I figured
Okay.
I'm the guy who doesn't know as much as the rest of y'all, so I can ask dumb questions. So that's good.
Heck no, Martin. I just know who to call.
Yeah, me too. Honestly, I stand on the shoulders of giants. I have learned so much from this community that I almost can say I didn't self-teach myself anything. Everything I know, I learned from the community. So yeah, and then we go to I'm grabbing from a field. I'm just gathering the information, and if a CC isn't provided, I will stick in depending upon certain things. If I'm logged in, it gives it one CC address. If the customer is logged in, it gives another CC address. So it's just what we're doing is just gathering all the parts together. Now, this one here, I've got a custom function that has the key in it. When you call an API, most of the time, all the times I can think of that I've worked with APIs, is they will require some sort of key when you send them the request so that it knows to, pay attention and not bounce your request back. The attachment here is a PDF, and I'm using the I'm sorry, this is probably pretty small for you guys, but hope you can see that. Zoom does not handle, ironically enough, Zoom does not handle screen zoom. So if I enlarge the screen, it doesn't show it to you correctly. So it's ironic. But anyway, so I've taken the base64 command and converted this field. Now, let's see if if there's something in there and I can show you what that looks like, because it's it's out of context. Yeah, developer assistant won't show it to me because I'm not in the context that I need to be to show that. But when the script runs, it is, because the script runs on that. Let me see if I can switch layouts and get that to work. We are, EMLH. Oh, Yeah, I don't have any records in that table right now. No, that'll come up a blank anyway. But it's as if you had a 1,000 monkeys and 1,000 typewriters, and you didn't allow them enough time to write the works of Shakespeare. It would look like that. It's gibberish. It means something because, but basically what the Space 64 does is it converts. Where are we down here? It converts any kind of binary to text, so that it can be sent via a URL or a post or a get.
I want
Now,
to just jump in here, Jonathan.
feel free.
And you may not know it, but your email client does that for you. If you've ever looked at the raw source of an email that you sent or gotten, you will see that it has binary encoded attachments and images and you know, anything
Absolutely.
like that. You look at the content and go, what is that gibberish? And it's binary encoded. So it does it for
In
you.
the raw option.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Now, one other thing I found, and I discovered this on a previous, with a previous client, we were doing some base 64, not base 64, HL7, medical electronic data interchange. And this particular EDI required base 64. None of it worked. And so I had the experts at the service that we were working with look at the code. And they said, oh, you got all these extra carriage returns in there. So in this case, it wasn't actually a carriage return. It was a 13 and a 10 together, which is like a carriage return line feed kind of thing. Isn't that right, Beverly?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had to substitute all those out, and then it works. And I don't know why FileMaker does this, and I've had all kinds of problems with carriage returns in trying to work with different kinds of files. It won't. If you're getting a file from somewhere else, or you're not, there's so many places I run into where FileMaker won't tell you what the actual what the actual character is. You can do a code on it, on a character, and it tells you the wrong thing. So I have just found that this particular combination, this particular fix works to fix the base 64. And I'm sorry that's one more confusion to this process, which is not super simple. But I put that in there, and I found that in the past that makes things work. Now, when I didn't have that in there, SendGrid bounced it and said, we don't, your HTML file isn't right.
Jonathan, I'm going to say thumbs up to that, because I'm working a lot with APIs right now, and a lot of them I pull my hair out. And y'all may not, if you don't know about this, a useful thing if you're working with APIs called Be Free. I think that's what it is. I'll look it up. But it basically lets you send your API and your curl to them, and it says, here's what I got. So it shows you, what is actually being sent, not what FileMaker thinks is being sent.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And it's fantastic, because you go, that's not what I sent. And you have to figure that out. And I suspect your little trick right there may be one of the things that I'm looking for. So thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, I discovered that when I was working with HL7. HL7 is an electronic data interchange for the medical industry. Doctors and labs say, I got a lab client, and they send the information to the doctor's medical record system, and it goes through an intermediate service, and so that it ends up with the PDF of the report actually shows up in the, and then all the data too, actually ends up in the magically appears in the doctor's medical record system, so they can, when they see the patient, they can look it up what the lab said. It works great. It's kind of magic, but
It's the thing is called Beceptor, Beeceptor. I put it in the chat.
oh, okay.
You can create a free account. You basically give it an endpoint, and then you just change the URL that you're sending your API to them, and to that particular URL, and it just says, here's what it looks like. And man, that is so useful. I mean, it's just a really good troubleshooting tool.
Oh man, yeah, no kidding. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard of that. All right. So anyway, that's why it looks weird like that, is because you got to fix the base 64. I don't know why.
Well,
But anyway,
there are two base 64 encodings if you look at FileMaker. And the old standard was to have it wrap at 80 characters. And again,
okay.
if you look at something that you get in email and it looks kind of funny, it's because it isn't wrapped correctly. But if you use the base 64, and I don't remember the rest of the R something or other, if you use that, it kind of fixes that problem. So it doesn't wrap and doesn't give you extra returns.
So there's another base 64 function?
Yeah, look it up in the functions.
Oh, encode RFC. Encode RFC?
Yeah, RFC, yeah.
Oh. Thanks for coming, Beverly.
Yeah, it's not, something that's been around a long time, and so I kind of always forget it's there too, but it was a way to fix some of the problem. And you may still have to do whatever you're doing with your substitute, but that base 64 on its own was not working for a lot of things.
Oh, okay. I'll have to give that a test. For right now, this is working great. So, and then because the API requires, in addition to sending the attachment, it also wants the attachment name. So just use the get as text on the container field to get the name of the file. The rest of this is about the HTML. Actually, this was a previous effort. I commented that out, so it's basically this stuff here. But basically, what it does is it goes through and it substitutes a template body with the basic customer information. So it can send an email, send a body with you've often seen, "Hello, Jonathan," and then down in the text, I've got a client that just texted me that their server's locked up. Great. Okay. Well, you can wait. Because it isn't mission critical, is why I could say you can wait. So what it's doing is it's finding all the places in the template that I've created. There's other techniques for how to do that. Yes, it is mail merge. It's kind of like mail merge, and then just use a lot of substitutions that, like here is where that all happens. I grab all these values and then I substitute it in. So anybody's ever done a mail merge with Word or something like that, it's basically that kind of thing. Although the body in this case is an HTML template. So it will find those places within the HTML where it has to replace that. then if there is an attachment, it okay, if it doesn't have an attachment, doesn't have a CC to send to, then the this is the JSON here of putting together now the API documentation shows the format for this and what you have to do here. So it's not super easy to figure out, but it's you can figure out what it needs. Having some familiarity with how JSON works really helps. So some of these things, I struggle with the concept of an object and an array, and so knowing those kinds of things with the JSON helps if you're using the JSON interface with the API. Now they have various programming languages that you can use. JSON is the simplest non-specific. I'm not going to use .NET or Java or anything like that. So, JSON's pretty basic, but it helps to know a little bit about how JSON works. And so you just build this together, in this case, it's the data. So it's the information that you're going to send. And the reason why I have these different options in here is because sometimes you got a CC address, and sometimes you have an attachment, and sometimes you don't. So these are just the different formats of these. See, this one's longer. This has all the attachment information in here, whereas these up here did not. So it's difficult to programmatically, like within the JSON, to say, okay, in this case, I don't know how. I'm sure somebody knows how, but I don't know how to take the JSON and say, okay, under these circumstances, we're going to include this element. Under these circumstances, we're going to include this element. I find it just easier to do the if-thens in if-else in FileMaker and be done with it. And then here's the URL. Now, remember I was telling you that wish I could get that bigger. Yeah, not working. So remember I was telling you that there are several endpoints when you're dealing with different parts of the API. There's several different things that you can do with the API. And so they have options and different addresses. So in this case, this is the address they want you to the URL they want you to send to if you're going to send mail. Now there's a different one if you're going to, let me pull that up. If you're going to there we go. All right, so here's the SendGrid website, and then their API. This is their document, docs.sendgrid.com. This is their documentation site. And so if you want to go look at the API, they walk you through. There's a lot of information in here, and then they have extensive documentation on the API reference I use a lot. Okay, so there's authentication, and then there's the mail send section here. Shows you they show you what the URL is going to look like, and then they show various. See, this is what I was saying. You've got your different options for the programming languages to put this information together. So if you're familiar with PHP or Node.js or Ruby or whatever, you've got sample code in order to work that. But since I'm using the CURL and the JSON option, is you can see it's a lot simpler. So you can see here that they've got, and what I did was I copied this out and looked and broke it down to, there's a bunch of options in here for email, and oops, how that works. But basically it looks like this. You're going to send data in a certain format. And you can do content encoding you can compress it, you can specify who the reply to is differently, and so there's a bunch of things that you can do in here. They're talking about using the API key in the header, and then so this is what your request. These are the various options in the request body. So the from, the reply to. If you want to have a list of people that it replies to, then you could use an array. So there's tons of options here. So basically you want to just use something simple, but and then say, oh well, you know what, it would be kind of nice to to include a template. SendGrid has various templates that you can use. I didn't do that. I just made work with local templates in the FileMaker, and then you can add any of these options, and that's just the send. Whereas there are various other things you can do. You can schedule a send. You can do more security. And you can retrieve various settings. Where's the one for the bounces? Oh, okay. So here's one for send me all the alerts that you got back. So if something didn't work right and they logged an alert, you could use this endpoint to grab the alert. So anyway, there's a bunch of stuff in here that's beyond the scope of this presentation, but there's a ton of things that you can do to use multiple senders, and you just make this as complex as you want. That's not usually my approach. I usually like the simpler, but anyway. But so this mail send here using the CURL options, and I'll show you the one that Sully helped me set up. So anyway, so that's as I was saying, they have different endpoints for different functions you want to access. Just sending mail is you use this one. And then there's the CURL. CURL is I don't know. Beverly, do you know what CURL stands for?
Say again.
Do you know what CURL stands for?
Curl.
Yeah.
C is, I don't remember what the C is. The rest is URL, like URL, like uniform resource locator, like
Oh, okay.
HTTP
Okay.
or mail to or.
Okay. Sorry to put you on the spot there. You're legendary expert, so of course we're going to ask you all the tough questions. Never ask you an easy question. We ask you all the tough ones. So this basically says we're going to post, and there's documentation on CURL, client URL. Thank you, Dean. We had an answer in the chat. Good. So you can go to, let me find that for you. Oh, okay. Well, here's an article that I was using, put out by one of our fellow FileMaker consultancies, that talks about how to program CURL options. And so there's lots of articles about it. There is some CRL official websites that go into what all this means. But basically, we need to send the key, which, as you remember, I pulled from a custom function earlier on. And then this is the content type here that I was telling you about. In this case, it's an application JSON, which means I'm sending it JSON data, which means that this I've put in here is the JSON. Now that JSON data is, oh, it's just not going to work in here. That I've already, oh yeah, it's not going to show me here because I actually didn't run the script, but yeah, it's empty. But that will be where we have placed all of our the stuff up here, where we've created this JSON element with all of the information, the email addresses, the subject line, the body, and the body requires a definition of the type, and then a definition of what the then the actual content itself, the value, and then on the attachment, it's also HTML, and then there's the content and the name, and this disposition down here is what the documentation said. You can say inline. So if you have an attachment that's inline, it will go in the body of the email. The attachment will go as an attachment, so it's some email clients show attachments and some don't, but it'll be treated as a separate document that's just along for the ride. Whereas if you do inline, it will actually display it. So you would do things, like logos and things like that would be inline. So there's so we set a bunch of JSON, and then we include that JSON as one of the CURL data points. And then, so we have our URL where we're going to send it, the CURL, which is basically especially in a post, it's the payload that you are sending to the URL. If you're familiar with HTML data access, there's the post and the get. The get has all of the data actually in the URL, most often, and so a lot of stuff is exposed, and it gets really long. There's only a certain limit. There's only so many characters you can put in a URL. So this post option allows you to send basically an unlimited amount of data to that API endpoint. So this is where the insert from URL happens. Here's the response. This line would have been red if I had taken out declaring that variable earlier on. And that's not a FileMaker thing. That's a Monkey Bread plugin thing. And then we've got the various other options. So we specified the URL. We've got that in a memory variable. The CURL is down here, and we've just specified, the CURL variable. So that part is really easy. It's because we've just all queued up all those memory variables. And then there's various things you want to record. So response is going to have the data. Now, sometimes you get a response that's useful, and sometimes you don't. In this case, our last error, because the response for this particular API call is basically nothing if it's successful. They will give you an error if there was an error. So you will get information back. But if there's nothing, it will be blank. And so get last error will be a 10, which means, hey, we didn't get a response, which, it would be nice if you get a 1 or something, okay, or something back. But in this case, yeah. Beverly says that she's got some good stuff in the chat, some links and stuff to CURL, and Claris's documentation on CURL options. So that she makes a good point. There's some CURL that FileMaker doesn't acknowledge, and so you can't use it in FileMaker, but not a whole lot. But just be aware if you're trying to do something fancy to check with FileMaker, with Claris documentation. So nothing I've done here violates the FileMaker requirements. Oh, I forgot to mention this CURL line. This is what I got from Sully. So he helped me set this up. Now the data is a little more complicated because I had to figure out how to do the attachments. His thing didn't have attachments, but he gave me this, and then he gave me the next line here, the CRL data. So with that, I was able to do this. So I can make this available to anybody as well. Right now, what we're looking at is actually in a live solution. So, but I can give you the pieces, parts. Anybody who wants more information on that. It would have been super nice if I'd set up a demo file, but evidently, one of my many failings is the inability to deliver on my dreams. So, but I would be happy to help anybody who wants to work on this. So, so what we end up with next is I've created another variable that will return from this script. Now remember, this is a script that's called from a looping script, and so that looping script that actually calls this wants to get something back, and so we're going to help it out. We're going to say, oh, if the last error was 10, which FileMaker says is the response was empty, so we're going to put an OK on that. Otherwise, pretty sure that the response, if there was a problem, they would tell us. So we want to send that back, and so we include that in the text result. So then the looping script will log what that response was, whether it's an OK or whether it actually is an error, and it'll log all of that. And then I can go back and look at the log and see later on if there were any issues. And then I was going to add, if it has an issue, then it would then also run another email and send me the report of the issue. So this is, I don't have data queued up. The project is still under development, but you can see a lot of moving parts. And I was going to talk about why you want to do this. Okay, partly because with some of the things that we've talked before, the sending through your email client is problematic depending on who your email is. Apple Mail works great, but if you're going to have a client use this solution, they may be using Gmail, they may be using some third-party mail client, and even Outlook oftentimes looks, especially on the Mac, Outlook on the Mac, it looks askance at sending email through the client. The other thing is, oftentimes you don't want the user to actually see the email. You just want you know to have to deal with their email client and then hit the send button, to actually get rid of it. So what you want to do, people leave me alone. What you want to do is have it sent automatically. Now you can have it sent through your email client automatically, although some email clients just really balk at that. You can send it through your SMTP, although sometimes that might get blocked. So the solution for a client, especially a client that's got a lot of users, is to queue it up on the server and then have the server send it. So it's only the server that's ever communicating with the API service, and you can control everything a whole lot better that way. You could check the email before it gets sent. When it's queued up in your email log, in your records of potential emails, you can have the full force of FileMaker checking on, hey, does it have all the right pieces? Does it, did they use something that they're not supposed to in the email? Did they include too large attachment? So if you need to do a lot of checking, you can do that in that file, in that record with FileMaker, and you can check all that stuff before you send it. And then this script just takes all those parameters that the looping script has worked up and checked all of that, dropped it in this script, and this script then communicates with the server, with the API. So that's an overview of how this is done. Obviously, the difficulty is in the details, but this gives you an idea of what the power that you have, but also kind of is this a hill you want to climb, or you want to just use the email client, because sometimes that's totally fine. But sometimes if you've got some serious email application that you want to be totally bulletproof, totally client-proof, which sometimes is very difficult to do, you might want to climb this hill. So anyway, so what questions? Probably a long list of questions. What would people like to know more about?
Jonathan, I had just a couple of caveats about the SMTP and stuff like that.
Yes.
I wanted to offer up. Just kind of goes back to the pros and cons. One of the things that I think is a pro of using the SMTP is that you actually get the sent mail in your account. So like if you're using a Gmail account and you send a mail from FileMaker using your Gmail account, it's logged in your sent folder in that Gmail account. And so that's one of the things that's just kind of something to be aware of, because if that's something that's going to be important for your end user to be able to go back and see the emails they sent, if you're using a service like this, then maybe only the admin can go and see what mails have been sent and things like that. Whereas
I'm sorry, there's a really simple solution for that. You just BCC yourself.
True.
You BCC the sender.
Yeah, that's definitely a suggestion.
And then it ends up in their email. So yeah, I've done that a lot with Outlook, because Outlook is a pain to work with sometimes, and so
that was
I try to talk clients out of doing that. And so if it's SMTP or some other approach, you just BCC yourself.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too, is just the fact that the different services can be such a bear to work with. Gmail is a real pain in the butt. You know,
Yep.
some email services, SMTP, you can just put in your account name, which is usually your email, and then your the same password that you use to access your email or whatever, and it will send that way. With Gmail, you have to go set up two-factor authentication, and you have to get a special app password that is specifically used for third-party apps to send through that account. It's a pain in the butt process, especially like I have end users that I allow to set up their own Gmail account and send through. So they just open up a settings for their user account in FileMaker, and they can put in their own email with their own, you know, password and all that, so that when they send something from the database, they can send it from their email. And they're all using Gmail accounts. And so I had to create a how-to video for them to go in and set up that password to be able to use in
Yeah.
FileMaker. And then like Office 365 or whatever it is a big pain in the butt for trying to figure out. I guess there's a switch somewhere you have to find to allow emails to be sent through. And so there are a lot of things depending on which, you know, SMTP service you're using there. It can be a real pain in the butt. So,
Well, that's why this is my favorite solution.
Yeah, I don't want to add
Because
to that, sending a
totally,
VCC, that if
yeah.
you do like 100 emails to 100 different people, and it's form letters, so you owe us blah, 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 or thank you for, you know, so it's 100 different emails, and you get 100 emails back in your VCC. But
yeah. And I think it's
that's okay.
it's use case,
Well,
of course, because like, you know, with our salespeople, they're sending out, oh, you need me to send this to you? I'm going to send this to you. They're sending out that one email here and there to the people they're talking to. And then of course I had to set up a whole different service for like batch emailing invoices every month and things like that you couldn't do through a regular account.
what I also recommend, Beverly, is that they use a different account for storing that stuff, because oftentimes they will want a corporate account to keep a record of all that particular type of email that went out. And so they could just set up another email account that that collects all that stuff, and you would BCC that.
Ooh, very
So,
cool. Thank you, Jonathan. My hero.
are you being sarcastic?
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
That's very good. Thank you.
we all have a love-hate relationship with email, so man, it's a big thing to deal with. I just like this approach because no matter who, like I said before, they're on an iPhone using WebDirect or a Chromebook that doesn't hardly work, or you know, Windows 95 or something stupid, and this it just works, you know, because it's your server. All the client has to do is just queue up a record, just fill in some fields in a record. The server takes care of all of it, you know. So that's why this is my favorite way. If I have a client that's got a bunch of clients that, you know, or a bunch of employees, that in this case, this is a client and their clients and their clients' employees. For what this thing is going to be for, and so this totally eliminates the you know, which email client are you using? Oh, you got to do it this way if it's this client, and you got to do it this way. That all goes away, and so that's why I like this. So, any other questions? Yeah, because I was so spot on, clear. Everybody understands it perfectly now. So you all get to go out and do your own now. You all know how, right?
That was very good. It would be nice if you could post that little snippet that you had from Sully in the chat.
Okay, I can do that. Let me ask him first, but well, actually, I modified it, so I'll give you my version. So, So basically, it's this one is basically the payload, the data, and then this one is the CURL code. So basically, the way CURL works is you specify whether it's a post or a get, and then you include this is a key value pair. The key is authorization bearer, and then the value is the key itself. And then you've got another key value pair that's content type and application JSON. And then the D is, okay, this is the line that's going to include all the data. I have no idea what the ampersand is for, but the $ data is the variable that we built all the JSON in. So, oh, and this JSON here says that data is going to be in JSON. So, yeah, I can post those. Where would I put that? You want me to just put it in the chat and you guys grab it from the chat, or how do you want me to post that?
Or you could post it to the IO when you, go out to all of us to get it. And then Martin, who's left, will be able to get.
The group's IO. Yeah. Are you talking about our listserv, right?
Right. Yeah. Then Martin, who's left, would be able to get it too.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, Tony, did I forget? I totally forgot about you. It's only 2:30. We got time. You want to show off your?
Sure. If you all make me the co-host.
You can
whenever you're ready, I'm ready. Just let me know. I'm here.
Well, okay. Yeah, I'll get that. I'll get that out in the listserv. Is everybody on the listserv? Anybody who wants to be? It's in the email that goes out. It's at the bottom.
Tony, I think if you try screen sharing now, you can just bump Jonathan out, or Jonathan can end his screen share and you should be able to share.
Okay. I should be showing up in like 30 seconds. I'm just demonstrating off a live system, so I'm just closing some windows here.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, Tony and I were talking the other day, and he's got a way that uses AppleScript, and I thought, oh, man, I never thought of that. So I want to see that. So I asked him to share.
Yeah, so this is going to be a relatively short presentation. It's not going to be nearly as comprehensive as Jonathan's. It's going to be something that I stumbled across a little while ago that uses AppleScript Objective-C. It's a very specific use case that fits a sweet spot that works for me. Obviously, AppleScript, it's Mac only. And the sweet spot is the ability from FileMaker to use AppleScript to create an HTML email that is open in Apple Mail that you can then, someone mentioned it earlier, that email goes in through your email client, and you can also personalize it, which I will do. So let's pretend that I was talking to Elon Musk earlier, and he sent me a Twitter direct message requesting this demo file. And I said, okay, I'll send it to you. So by the way, this is an internal system, so it's got that kind of scruffy look because there's a lot of like experimental stuff here, not polished. Oh, the other thing is I'm not 100% sure what looks, the whole screen size. A lot of times when I do it on Zoom, I'll change the resolution, but for now, let's see how far we can get with without changing too many screen resolutions. So first off, I have a template, which I'm going to jump over to. Okay, so my template, I'm going to zoom in. So this is a HTML template. You can see the tags and everything. This is set up over here. By the way, I do have a sample file from a previous presentation, dig.fm. I'll bring that up in a moment. And if you send me an email saying, hey, send me the demo text editor or something to that effect, at Tony White, let's just make it easy. Let's use the Gmail, tonywhite7@gmail.com. That's TONYWHIT 7@gmail.com. So just, request it and I'll send it to you. And by the way, this is sort of recursive presentation because it's I'm using the demo file email template for this presentation. And then you can see you can watch the presentation if you want. Okay, so anyway, there's the template. This is HTML in a text field. And over here, this is a web viewer displaying the HTML, rendering the HTML in a web viewer. Okay, so that's my template. And here's Elon, and here's, I'm guessing might be an email. Probably doesn't answer to himself. So I'm just going to click this button, which looks at the template as long as it's the frontmost. It's just to make it fast to send these things. I actually use this quite a lot. I have quite a lot of correspondence templates queued up. I send a lot of emails. So here is the base thing. Here's a little send email button. So I'm going to click this button. And in about a second, it is going to bring up. So I clicked the button in FileMaker and it brought up, as you can see, an Apple mail. And this is HTML. It looks like HTML. It is HTML. Somewhere around here, it'll say, what's your format? It's not plain text. It's HTML, as it looks like. So then I'm going to personalize it. I'm going to say, got your DM. And make that for Donna, because that's what I'm using for the template. So his DM was requesting this sample file. And I'm not actually going to send this because that's probably not a real email address. And that's not how you spell your. And that's pretty much it. That's also not how you spell account. Okay, hold on. I'm going to throw this away. And this is a real-time debugging here. I do send this to a lot of people. Where was the use at your own risk? Oh, admin account. That's what's wrong. So I'm going to fix that, ACCOUNT. So my template is better now. Okay, so that, let's see, how does that work? It uses AppleScript. Let's see, so I have my sample file. Oh, the sample file, let's do things one at a time. The HTML, let's see, let's get risky here. And let me build HTML. This is the before. Since we've already, demonstrated that it works, I'm going to go here. I'm going to put this as text. Here's HTML. Sometimes I'm like, this is risky. I'm going to hit convert. It's going to take plain text. Oh, I might have broken it. Oh, I got to put this over here. That goes there. This is internal. I'm actually trying to polish it up a little bit so that I can understand what the heck I built. Okay, convert to HTML. Here's my little, here's my web viewer. You can see it looks messy. Here's my, hey, I'm going to make that into HTML. Probably code could be written better. Here's a link. I'm going to make that an HTTP. It's starting to look a little bit better. Here's my presentation. Let's make that bold. Let me look at the time. I'm doing okay. That's bold. So that's a demonstration that you can build an HTML text editor or a text editor in FileMaker, and that's a sample file that you can watch. That was just a teaser, or what do you call it in the movies? A trailer, like a movie trailer. you can watch this presentation, which is presentation number 4 for DigFM. And then you can kind of see all the features of the text editor file. Send me an email, I'll send it to you, TonyWhite7@gmail. Okay, but let's see, what am I going to show you next? Oh yeah, I'm going to show you the AppleScript. Okay. Okay, so this is the AppleScript that got produced and used to generate an email, to generate the email. This is, you don't have to, here's where I found the original, right here. So if you're in a hurry, you can go find that. We actually figured out how to do attachments. I forget what there's a bunch of things we didn't figure out, but I was quite happy to be able to do attachments. That's what I wanted. This should look a little bit familiar. The body text is hi Elon. HTML is kind of forgiving. I noticed this isn't wrapped with a P. So Apple Mail was like, I know what you mean. That's actually incorrect code, but it's pretty forgiven, come to think of it. Let's see, boom, boom, boom. So if I just run this as an AppleScript, you will notice that an email will show up, and then it's like, you know, whatever, gobbledygook, personalized. Then something that's a little bit interesting, so it's AppleScript, and, you know, once again, say, hey, send me an email, subject line, send me that AppleScript, and I'll send you this. Demonstrating off a live system, so I'm not going to like go look at the code because I'd be tripping over all kinds of passwords. I don't know if I'd have, you know, passwords. I got passwords in here, keys and credentials and whatnot. But, and also you'd have to kind of figure out how to splice it into your system. Now, in terms of splice, I got something interesting to show you. For many, many years, well, brace yourself here. Okay, I'm going to do my standard joke here. Here's my standard joke coming up. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Tony, you missed a spot right over here. How come you don't have a button right here? Okay. So over the years, have done quite a bit of different types of systems, and incorporated them into this system so I could play along at home. Customer does project management. I do project management. Okay, now we also, so here's something, the email that you saw a moment ago. The way we do the email, there's different ways to produce to do FileMaker AppleScript integration. The way that is, I think, appropriate for this with a relatively complicated implementation. You know, this is a pretty long script, and there's loops because you're going to do loops for like how many attachments. This can do multiple attachments. You would have, in many cases, loops for multiple CCs, multiple BCCs, multiple twos, and so forth and so on. So that code would be rather complicated. I would say less so if you build it component by component, and you write out the AppleScript by like, okay, right, you know, set it all into a field. This is a field. You can tell from the suffix that's the global text field, GT. That's embedding metadata into the field name to increase code readability. Then I'm gonna just click. And I could have done this with variables. I think I might have set it up prior to the existence of variables. And even if variables existed, for something like an email API, there's something to be said for having a UI that shows the components of the email in a on a layout. Here's the array of paths of the images that we're sending, just as a list format that gets converted. So anyway, there's a little bit of a debugging UI for email. And then if it failed, I could click this button and I just say, well, it works. And actually, okay, this is going to be my final whiz bang, is that code worked because it ran that. But one thing, if you ever have something that doesn't work, there's often a reason. Same thing that worked a moment ago. I'm going to compile it. It's going to say, what? Because watch out for them curly quotes. I'm going to fix one. I got 2 of them. And then it's going to compile. And, you know, it's, what's this program? Script debugger, 99 bucks. Fun to play with and useful. And then I'll do it one last time. If I didn't muck it up, there it is. That was a lot of code. What are the takeaways? Just to repeat, what do we see? What's the use case? The use cases we saw from FileMaker on a Macintosh to Apple Mail, HTML email that you can personalize. So it's a specific use case. The other stuff is awesome. All of it's awesome. So many different ways. Very cool. And then just a little bit of AppleScript integration. So if you want the sample text editor, send me an email. If you want the AppleScript, send me an email, separate email, subject line. And that's it. Any questions on any of that? It's a lot to think about.
So that was to do, basically your goal there was to find an easy way to do HTML, or not so easy, but a way to do HTML email right out of FileMaker in your email client.
Using FileMaker to build the HTML emails, using some of the text formatting. Actually used a combination of text formatting to kind of gray out the tags, because, you know, I don't want to, I want the tags to be there, but I don't want to see them. I want to be able to see the email. So using the text color format, so what's it called? Text color function. And then there is, and this is all in the sample file, but let me just do, just see, you know, it's like, do I want to ask for that sample file? The reason you might, I was pretty happy when I got my head wrapped around, oops, wrong button. That's a paragraph tag. The paragraph tags will toggle. Let me just show you that. And then I'll show you the code, because I think this is relatively cool that I can go, I hope they toggle. Tag on, tag off. It's not massively elegant. There is also the add-ons. This is sort of the inverse of the add-on technology that uses, I think, the Quill editor, the FileMaker add-ons that got introduced in 19, I think. This is like the inverse, because I'm just using old school FileMaker, so there's really no excuse not to consider potentially, at least consider using this. If I click this paragraph, I've got, you know, a different script step for the different things and some code about how to toggle. This is the HTML tag stuff. Oh, and I'm combining them because I'm doing bold. Now that bold FileMaker won't care about, the web viewer won't care about bold because that's not an HTML tag. So that bold is just for like letters or notes in a help system or something like that, where I might want to like color, like if someone gave me a help request, I'm like sample file, and I want to remember sample file, I might make that red or blue or purple. So that's colors. There's the bold is styles. These are all the text formatting functions. And then once I had the basics of how to use the script steps, let me go to color because that's the simplest. This little code pattern here, I'm doing something with hexadecimal instead of RGB, just to make hexadecimal consistent. I'm kind of like, because hexadecimal, you have a chance, you got a shot at remembering a hexadecimal code because it's 6 characters long or 3. Anyway, so this just little snippet over there with the concept of active field content selection. So I just, I went down that path of like, let me get as much as I can out of the text formatting functions, and then, let me use it to, wrap tags. And for the HTML editor, I'm actually, well, not, why not combine them? Like, why not build the tags by wrapping a selection? And why not, while you're at it, why not use the text formatting to make it blue? So if you look at that, which is producing that, it's pretty readable. It's as readable as I could come up with, right? Tags out of the way, links look blue. anyway, that was a bit of a long answer, a bit of a riff, Jonathan, off your question comment.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, so there's a ton you can do with the platform. It's like, and I will say, the text editor stuff that we've done has found a home at multiple clients. Once I spent some time in the labs a couple, number of years ago, let's say, and then I showed it to a bunch of clients. Some didn't care, but I have actually one big client, let's say, and they were like, "Yeah, we totally want that," and we were building, anyway. So it's a winner in terms of making the platform look good. Any
Cool.
any other questions? No question too crazy. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Have you played with the JSON library? Not JSON. I'm sorry, the JavaScript libraries for text editors and web viewers?
I have not played with the Quill because because I guess I already had this. That's one thing.
Yeah.
And it did what I wanted, which was to write super duper 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 clean. I think there's a use case for both, is what I would say.
Okay.
But I'm not, I can't speak with great experience about what the Quill. I know it, gives you a WYSIWYG editor, and I guess it gives you the ability to take the WYSIWYG output and use it as the input. Probably I could use it as the input to the Apple Mail AppleScript, probably.
Yeah. Well, I've played with Quill and I've found it missing those few features that I needed at the time. So I'm not an expert on it, but I was just wondering if you had played with it.
No, I mean I've been
like
and I
I'm
haven't
sure
even.
There's a bunch of.
Sorry.
I'm sure
No, I
there's a
haven't.
bunch.
You go. I'll shut up.
I'm sorry. I
No,
said
that's
I
funny.
sure.
It was funny. Like twice in a row, where like our timing was identical. So no, I haven't played with it. I've been happy with this. Speaking of missing features, the HTML, the Objective-C, the AppleScript Objective-C that I've been using doesn't recognize some of the tags that I wish that it did, specifically HR, horizontal rule. So, it's like, okay, I was just thrilled, or relatively happy, maybe not thrilled, relatively happy when I could get paragraph tags, break tags, bold, which really should be strong, which would be
Tony.
semantically correct.
Oh,
I'm in trouble on the website. Yes, Bev.
No, I'm just your comment kind of, set off the wheels going in my head. I'm wondering if they're using the newer version of HTML or if they're using HTML that they call XHTML. And it has to be, you can't do a angle bracket BR angle bracket. You have to do angle bracket BR / angle bracket. You know what I mean?
No, I do know what you mean. The stricter flavor of.
Yes.
Yeah, because at first there was HTML, then there was XHTML, which HTML was too forgiving, and XHTML is more rigorous, like XML.
Right.
I think that's a good hypothesis.
Yeah. Okay. That'd be great to kind of research.
Well, I would be thrilled to get an email from you requesting this, and then you might run with it a little bit more, because I've only pushed this particular. First I found the library, then I vrev'd it to be able to do attachments, changing the source code that's on the web page, and took it a notch up. I think what we have is better than what they have. Maybe I should post it over
I've
there.
done similar to you where you've got buttons to insert the code. And I think I always just did it as a stricter XHTML just because I knew it would work. You know what I mean?
I think that's a really good hypothesis, and I'd have to go find the books in the other room that explain what I'm supposed to do and what I'm not allowed to do. But absolutely, yeah. I mean, if someone, and there's another thing I didn't do. I mean, I didn't do color. even though I have the ability to do color, so I'd imagine color would be inline CSS. I, didn't do that. And I don't think I even did the multiple CCs and multiple B. But, this is the first time actually presenting this. So thank you, Jonathan, for suggesting it. And thank you also, who's ever recording this. I think it's terrific because I'll tweet this out and maybe someone's going to push it a little bit further. You know what I mean?
That'd be cool. Yeah.
I'd be happy if someone runs with this. And like I said, it's a narrow use case. The text editor that I did for the DigFM in presentation number 4, that has cross-platform relevance, and I think that I haven't, shout out actually to Ray, how you pronounce his last name, Culligan, who did FM Bible?
Oh, yeah. Culligan.
Maybe. Okay, good. He did, in terms of the text editor stuff, like this red, green stuff, he did a text editor in FileMaker, a long time ago, which I think was pretty terrific. I think I actually added a couple features, standing on the shoulders of the giant kind of deal. But I think, to me, and this is a little soapboxy, but I would say, what the heck? I would say that the bread and butter features, in addition to the fancy, I'll call them the fancy features, the insert from URLs and the round trip JavaScript apps, I think they all should be used. They all should be highlighted. They all should be, put out there, because I think from what I've seen, at least with clients, and just this feature alone, I've gotten really good uptake, happy clients, good for the community, good for everybody, rising tide, so forth. So anyway, are there any other questions that we didn't cover? Well,
you reminded me that I did not present the finished product on mine. So
you want me to? Why don't I'm going to stop my screen share, hand it back to you.
Let me just real quick, everybody. I do have a. If I get it on the right screen again. Hang on a second. There we are. Okay. We're here. I have too many monitors and too many. This is the finished product of that. So there's a box and a link, and so the HTML template that I was talking about has the place for a logo that is actually created from the data. It's converted to that's an inline base64, and then down here at the bottom you can see the actual statement that was created for the to be sent to the attendee, and so you can see there's all these different parts to this, and to Beverly's point, when we go into the message and we do send under format or message, when we look at the raw,
I think it's under message. Oh no, view, under the view menu message, all headers are raw. Yeah.
There we are. Okay.
Message raw sort.
Okay. So here is what that looks like in raw, and there's all those headers, but we can see down here all of this. There's some HTML. This is HTML template. And then down here, we see a massive amount of, like I mentioned, the, 1,000 monkeys and 1,000 typewriters. And we didn't give them enough time to actually get Shakespeare's work. So it ends up looking like this. And it just goes, it's a massive amount of data. It's larger, like if you convert a JPEG or something to this, it's balloons huge, because the amount of data is more. It's not optimized like a regular JPEG file would be. But as you can
Look at
see,
a PDF attachment sometimes.
well, that's actually, this is a PDF,
Oh,
so that's why
okay,
it's
yeah.
so massive. They're just humongous. But your email client, as we all know, your email client says, "Oh, okay, that looks like this," so you don't have to deal with all that. But in order to send it, it goes over the interwebs as that raw text format. And then your email client assembles it back at the other end. But so that data that we were just looking at is just this, the PDF attachment, the logo, a little bit of HTML. So it just works. I'm glad I don't have to reprogram the putting it back into an email. The email client and web pages and anything. So so that's the advantage of doing it through. Now, Tony's Way actually does HTML, but there aren't any other, any of the other ways within FileMaker that do HTML very well. And so that's why I like using. That's another reason why I like using the service, is because you can send it HTML and it just works. So
And the
anyway,
services will take care of the spamming a lot of times, like
Right.
MailChimp or SendGrid or any of that. It's they have, that's part of their package, is saying, if you're spamming, go ahead, but we'll protect you a little.
well, yeah, that, but also they require certain things. You have to, I mean, if it's a mailing list, they require that you have the unsubscribe button at the bottom. They will require a certain level of compliance with regulations, and so that's part of what they sell to all the other email servers that are accepting their stuff. Yeah, we put some effort into keeping this whole process clean. So anyway, so that's the advantage of using a service like that. So anyway, that's all I have. Can you guys all see that? I don't see the.
I
am
see it
showing
on
you
the
that.
screen. The demo.
Yeah. Okay.
Looks nice.
The sample email. Okay. Yeah. It's and the cool thing about it is, I went online and I said, show me some HTML templates. And I got a free template that had a button in it and had a logo in it, a little bit of text. And so I just grabbed that, pasted it into FileMaker, and then added the tags, the mail merge tags into the body. And then I just substitute out the mail merge tags when I go to send it. So it was, if an idiot like me can do it, there's nothing to it. So and I don't write HTML, so I just went and found the template and just substituted out the tags. So anyway, the mail merge, very simple. So I'm through. Let me cancel my share. So, what you got? Are you still there, Ron?
Yep, I'm still right here.
Okay.
Thank you,
along.
Jonathan.
It's all yours, Ron.
I guess that's going to do it for today, unless any other questions. I did put the listserv URL in the chat. I'm gonna have to get with Jonathan and find out. I don't think I even have a login for that or anything at this point. I don't. When we transferred everything over, I didn't even look at that. So that's something I'm gonna.
It should have been in, and I didn't check today. It should have been in the bottom of the email that went
Yeah,
out.
the
It
link
used
is
to be.
in. Yeah, when we send out the announcement for the upcoming meeting, it's in. There's a link to it at the bottom.
Yeah, and you just go on there and you sign up.
Uh,
You know, and
Yeah. Is there?
uh,
I'll get with you on whether there's like an admin account or anything like that.
I've been maintaining that because I have a bunch of I manage a bunch of listservs for various. I can give it to you, but I manage a bunch of listservs for various groups. So
Yeah, I think it was Karen that. Yeah, Karen had sent me an email for the link asking me to add her to it. So I don't know if I can add her email to it or.
okay, I'll see if I can add you as an admin.
Okay.
Then that's fine.
All right.
So thank you.
I guess that's about it for this month.
Everybody.
Very
So,
good
see you
meeting, y'all.
Next
Oh,
month.
thank you, Beverly. Appreciate your input, Beverly. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Next month, we will most likely have a representative from Claris joining us to give us some updates on upcoming stuff. They're doing like a follow-up to the Auto Enter live event. So I'm in contact with them and pretty sure we're going to have it scheduled for next month. They'll pop in for 15, 20 minutes or.
Yeah, they dropped an announcement saying they upgraded Studio again
Yeah.
with some new stuff. So that's really cool.
Oh, I want to see that. Yeah, good. All righty.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining.
Thanks, Ron.
And hopefully we'll see y'all next month.
Absolutely, I'll be here.
See you out there in the ether and in between.
You can't get rid of me that easy.
All right, everybody, have a great day.
You too, Ron. Thank you.
You're
Bye
welcome.
all.
Appreciate your work.
All right, bye.